Welcome to another lesson in shuttle tatting with me, Lovey Bunny. Hi, we're back for another video, and today I'm going to teach you the three most basic building blocks of shuttle tatting. I'm going to first teach you how to make a ring. While we're demonstrating a ring, I will teach you how to make a picot, and then we will tell you how to make a chain. You can do these three things, you are ready to make your first project. So let's get into making a ring. So I have one shuttle and a ball. Most of the patterns that only use these three building blocks will just have you use one shuttle and a ball. So I'm going to remove my ring first because jewelry gets in the way of shuttle tatting. And then I'm going to let a little off my shuttle. Remember from our video on how to load a shuttle, we're going to go in with these two fingers, so this contention. You can see there's physically a triangle, really, but we're going to call it a ring. It'll look like a ring when we're done. Of thread. One coming from our shuttle, this one, and the one going down is coming from our ball. I'm going to add a little bit more. And you just have to make sure that you're tensioning it. Remember we talked about tension? It moves a little bit, but it's not flopping all over the place, right? So what we're gonna do is, there's a lot of different levels of how far away or how close you want your shuttle. I typically keep it about like this. So you wanna make sure there's enough room for your hand to move. And we're gonna make our first half of the stitch, then our back half of the stitch. We're going to do this 4 times. 2, 3, 4. Now, as I made the 4th one, did you notice my pinky pop out? It's because I didn't want to add more thread in currently. So I just went ahead and let that pinky pop out, which gives me a little bit of more room to put my hand in while we're moving and having a good rhythm. So now we're gonna make something called a picot. When we're talking about picots, I will also show you guys how to join. So I'm gonna do that. Now, was that a good explanation? No, but that's what we're gonna do. So a picot is not a stitch. I repeat, a picot does not count as a stitch unless otherwise stated in the pattern. So what we did was, and I'll undo this fully to show you guys more slowly. What we're going to do is we're going to make the first half of a stitch like normal, right? But don't scoot it up. Don't scoot it up. I'm going to make huge picots just to show you guys. If you're doing a joined picot should be as small as possible while still being able to get the hook, the crochet hook and or hook on your shuttle to make a join possible. I'm going to make a big decorative one. Some patterns do denote decorative. So I just did the second half of the stitch and let that thread slide up. Okay, let's make one more. So first we're going to make our first half, right? And we're going to make sure we flip, but you see how this thread left in between? We're going to leave it. You can always measure your picots. Then I'm going to make the back half, right? And that's what's going to tighten it. Now, sometimes it tightens like that. What I'm going to do is just go in there and kind of pull that thread. And then when you push it back together, it looks better. Now, your picot should still be able to move. You should still be flipping. As you can see, I have this yellow thread, so you can see the flip happening with this variegated thread. Now, I have a actual picot gauge here. You can also make one. I've seen several people make one with old, like credit cards you get in the mail, anything that's kind of harder. This one is from Handy Hands, and you can actually measure exactly how large you want your picot. Yes, some picots are this large. Now you can get this tiny one, you can do all that. I'll show you how to use it here real fast. I don't tend to use mine. It helps a lot. You can see these ones are decently even. It helps me, I think, to just do it and let it be. I pick a size when I intend to make a picot, but I just try to match them as best as possible. It creates a little variation, which I tend to like. But now let's do one that's that smallest piece. So what I would do is I would start that, I have the flip done, right? And then I'm going to essentially put this in between and tighten my picot. See, we're just tightened around that piece, and then I'm going to leave it in there, and I'm going to make my back stitch, and then we're going to take it out and push our stitches together. You can see there will always be a stitch in between picots because picots are not a stitch. So there's stitches here in between these 3 picots. So now we have a total of 7 stitches and 3 picots. Now I'm gonna make 1, but this one also counts as 1. Remember, your picot doesn't count, so 1, 2 in this section, and we're just going to make a join picot. And with a join picot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to snug this up to the point where there's barely a gap. That's what I'm talking about. There's barely a gap. And then I'm going to make my back stitch, the second half of the stitch. And you see, you can get something in there. Just a tiny little itty bitty hole. Now, the idea is literally just big enough that you can get your crochet hook or your shuttle hook through there. And I'm going to make another stitch. And since picot needs a stitch on the other side of it in order to make it, we now have 4 in this section and 4 in this section, 3 big picots. Now, we're going to close the ring. Before you close a ring, double check your work. Trust me, I have been tatting for over 2 years now. Check it, make sure you check, double check, triple check. It is such a pain to undo a ring once you've done it. So double and triple check your work. Make sure you've counted. All right, is there 1, 2, 3, 4? Okay, then we have our picots. And then 1, 2, little join picot, 1, 2. Okay, we checked. Now, we're gonna close this. Now, when we're closing, what I tend to do is hold my stitches. And you can hold the ring out a little too. You can see how it's getting bunched up. You want to make sure that that bunch doesn't get caught over here. If this starts to bunch around itself a bunch and gets caught over here, sometimes you can never fully close that ring. So we're just going to guide it a little bit. I'm holding all the stitches to make sure that it goes well, and I am pulling the side that my shuttle's attached to outwards. You can see it just disappearing. Now, when you shut it, you don't want to pull super hard, but you want to make sure that you get this little kind of teardrop. You want to make sure that both of those end stitches are touching each other completely, and there's no loose thread in between those stitches. Now, obviously, you have thread coming out with your shuttle side and thread coming out with your ball side, but make sure there's no thread in between those. So that's a ring. That's a ring, and those are picots. We have our little tiny join picot. You can see how much it's getting lost, but trust me, that is enough to get my crochet hook through it. Maybe in the beginning, you can start with looser picots and get tighter to your comfortability or the tools that you have. You might have a larger crochet hook to work with at some points. Then just make sure your picot will fit that, and just know that you'll have a slightly looser project. Now, a chain. So, in tatting, when you're going to chain, unless stated otherwise, you want to turn your work. Why do we turn our work? Now, the reason we turn our work is because tatting always goes clockwise. So a clock, tatting is always moving this direction. Always going to move this direction. It is naturally inclined to do that. So when you turn your work, what's happening is you're making sure that the chain that comes out of this is going to go clockwise. So it's going to come out and go this way, right? If you leave it like this, your work is going to come out and go this way. Oh, but our picot's on this side. Our join picot's on this side. So then you're moving in the wrong direction. So when we flip our work, what we're achieving is our chain is going to go down here. And then when we make our other ring, which we have turned back for, then it's going to be able to join with our little join picot over here, right? So it's going to come out that way. And then we'll be able to make our second ring after we turn back around, connect where we want it to connect. So We're going to take our thread off the ball and we're going to tension it with the same finger, and then I wrap it like 3 times around my pinky. Just make sure that you're holding it in a good tension so that you can make your stitches. I do find making the tension good for a chain is a little bit slippier. Slipperier. I am just walking back my shuttle right now so that I don't have too much thread. It's probably actually too little. So we're going to do stitches just like normal. And when you start this one, you want to make sure that you are completely touching the bottom of your ring with that. You see how that's completely pink because I flipped it from this yellow. You want to touch it with your first stitch on your chain so that you do not have any gaps. We're going to make the back stitch. Then we're going to double check. I don't see any yellow sticking out in between our first stitch of the chain and the ring. Perfect. That's what we want. So we're going to do, let's just say 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now we have 7 stitches. You can see that this is naturally, like I said, going clockwise. Naturally curving clockwise. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to turn our work. We're done with our chain, right? We're going to turn our work. We're going to drop that thread. Scooch this a little bit. It's going to be a little bit gappy until you start your next ring, right? So then I'm going to let out more thread, and real quickly I'm going to grab my shuttle with a hook. That's the one thing I forgot to grab. So, like I said, you need a crochet hook or a shuttle with a hook in order to make a join. So, now that I have that, I'm going to make another ring. So we're pulling around, like I said, holding with these fingers. We're going to make sure that we're holding the piece. Let out a little more thread. You do need a lot of thread to make a ring. So then we're going to make our first stitch, right? And what we're going to do is, you see it's yellow now, we're going to make sure that we pull that. You see how that gap just closed? We had that little gap on that last stitch on the chain. We're going to snug that so close that it's going to close that up, right? And then we're going to make the back stitch and start our ring. Now I'm just going to do 4 stitches. 2 and 3 and 4. And then we're going to make our join. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, here's our picot on this side. So you guys, I can fit my hook in it. Just like that. So that stitch is now, that picot is on top of this hook. And we're going to take our hook through and pick up the ring. We're going to pull that through. See, I have a loop up from the ring. Now we're going to hold it, make sure it doesn't twist. And we're going to put our shuttle through it. We're going from bottom to the top, and then we're going to pull through, and then you need to make sure your ring still works. That's how you know you did a join correctly. Your ring still has to work. So the way that you are putting it there, it still moves. So now we've joined. Let's do another 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is just practice, so this isn't going to make any sense. But now that we've joined, we're going to pull that ring closed. Remembering what we said last time, make sure your thread doesn't tangle, and make sure you get that teardrop shape. So that's what we have. You can see those 2 rings are actually locked together, and we have our chain connecting them. And then we could do another chain and another ring, but we don't have any picots on this one. There are no join picots, so this is the end of our project. We're stopped here. no way to join to this ring. So this has been a lesson in rings, picots, join picots, and chains. With this basics, you should be ready for your first pattern. And in the description below, I'm going to put some of the first patterns that I ever made when tatting. These patterns do not even require you to weave in your ends, which is why I liked them so much, because it took me a long time to figure out weaving in ends. I'll leave those recommendations in the description for you guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. This has been another lesson in shuttle tatting, and I will see you guys for the next one.